Welcome into the Heat Report, and on today's show, we are going to be talking Gabe Vincent. The point guard out of UC Santa Barbara has been pivotal in this Miami Heat playoff run. I am your host, Nic Rohloff, for today's show. We'll talk about what he could possibly fetch in free agency if the Heat should re-sign him, as we are another day or two away from Game 3 of the NBA Finals. I want to take a quick look at Vincent's free agency profile. But first, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. We are on the road to 1,300 subscribers, and after that, we're on the road to 1,400, on our all the way up to 2,000 total subscribers. We're live for every NBA Finals game. We'll be live Wednesday night. We'll be here for the free NBA offseason as well. This is just a glimpse of our offseason coverage, so make sure you are subscribed. Now let's take a look at the Miami Heat free agents. And Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Victor Oladipo, Kevin Love, and Omer Yurtseven highlight the Heat free agents. This isn't a starting lineup. This is just how it happened to be the top 5 Heat free agents. And it's pretty clear that Gabe Vincent is the best player on this list. Strus is good. Oladipo obviously have those injury history. Kevin Love was just on a buyout deal, and Yurtseven can leave or go. It seems like his time in Miami is a little, I don't know. It doesn't seem like he'll be here too much longer. I don't think he really fits this system. But it's clear that Gabe Vincent's the best player on this list, and he has continued to get better every year that he's been in the NBA. You just look at where he started, only 9 games played, obviously pretty bad. Then he finally gets a little bit of a role, and it wasn't really much other than a scrappy guard off the bench. But you have seen he gets better every year. He doubles his points per game from year 1 to year 2, basically does the same thing from year 2 to year 3, and he hasn't quite got there on a double point from year 3 to 4, but averaging 9.4 points per game. His shooting percentages have gotten better every year. I really think Gabe Vincent has showed himself to be an NBA caliber starting point guard in this league. And you know, Kyle Lowry was a starting point guard to start this year. Gabe Vincent took that starting role when Lowry went to the injury list. And then when Lowry came back, they still put him on the bench because Vincent started playing that well as a starter. But the big key to me for Gabe Vincent is that he is a playoff riser. And a lot of people in NBA circles talk about how real basketball is in the postseason. And that's where the defense gets tougher. It's not no regular season where you can chuck up shots because people aren't playing 100% every possession. In the playoffs, people are going 1,000% every single play. So in order to be a playoff riser, you have to be able to elevate your game. And if you're a real hooper, your game travels from the regular season to the postseason. And it's just telling. We'll look through some stats for Gabe Vincent, but he's able to improve his play in the postseason. And Pat Riley, we know, loves players that can play in the postseason, because that's all he's about. So I'll ask you this before we break down more stats from Gabe Vincent. Do you want to re-sign Vincent? Type Y for yes, type N for no. This is the pinned comment on today's show. So if you do get hit by a YouTube ad break, take advantage of it, scroll down, and answer today's pinned question. Now let's look at Gabe Vincent's playoff stats from a year ago. Obviously, the Heat lost in Game 7 against the Boston Celtics at home. Vincent averaged 8 points throughout that playoff run. They played the Hawks in the first series, then they played the Sixers, and then, like I just said, they lost to the Boston Celtics. But he shot pretty poorly last season in the playoff. 38% from the field, 30.9% from 3, only averaging 8 points a game. And he did play some good defense throughout that playoff run. He pestered Trae Young in the first round. I thought he did a good job. And he had some key moments off the bench for the Miami Heat. Obviously, Kyle Lowry was still clearly the starter and in that starting lineup for the Miami Heat in that playoff run. But Vincent would come off the bench and provide good moments. When he played in that Boston Celtics series last season, he was able to come off the bench and give the Heat a scoring plug and spark off the bench, which something that Hero struggled with even at times. So Vincent and Hero were the 2 best players off the Heat bench, providing the Heat with some scoring. But that was last year. Let's look at his improvements this year. And it all starts in round 1 against the Milwaukee Bucks. This is not a typo on our graphics. Yes, Gabe Vincent did shoot 42% from the field and three-point line. He's got the same exact percentage, averaging 13 a game and 5 assists. I thought he was terrific against Milwaukee. And if you remember, in that closeout game, Game 5 against the Bucks, unsung play that really doesn't get talked about because Jimmy Butler had that out-of-bounds lob play to send the game to overtime. The Heat were down 4 points, and Vincent steps up and hits a three with about 13 seconds left to have the Heat back in that ball game. Vincent played very well against Milwaukee and was a key reason why the Heat were able to defeat the Milwaukee Bucks, the top-seeded Milwaukee Bucks. Now let's go to the Knicks series. It went a little downhill for Gabe Vincent. He had 30 minutes a game, only 10 points, 4.7 assists, and shot horrible. 31% from the field, 26.8 from three. It wasn't great. And if you look at his game-by-game breakdown against the Knicks, obviously the Heat won this series, but he came out hot like he did against Milwaukee. Games 1 and 2, Vincent was absolutely hooping. Obviously that game 2 was without Jimmy Butler, so he had to take a larger step and role in that game. And I thought Vincent did a good job in games 1 and 2. But games 3 through 6, he was abysmal. 5 points on 1 of 8 shooting, 0 for 4 from 3. 3 points, 1 of 7 shooting, 1 for 5 from 3 and 4. And the list just keeps on going on and on of how bad and how much Gabe Vincent struggled against the New York Knicks. But let's be honest here and give credit to the Knicks. They played excellent defense against the Miami Heat. The Heat's offense has been cooking this entire postseason. The one series where it looked like it did in the regular season against the Knicks, they played some good defense. Now let's flash forward to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics. Series went 7, but Vincent missed game 5, so he played 6 games. But look at these numbers. He played 34.5 minutes a game, so his minute intake went up, scored 15.8 per game on 48% shooting from the field and 51.6% from 3. Vincent was terrific against Boston and was one of the main reasons, once again, I kept on saying this, but he is a big part in why the Heat are in the NBA Finals. And let's talk about the NBA Finals. I know it's only been 2 games. It's only been 2 games. He won 1 in that series, but he's averaging 21 points per game in the first 2 games, shooting 57.7% from the field and 56.3 from 3. Vincent is cooking with gas right now against this Denver Nuggets team to where they have no answer for him currently. And if Vincent can keep this up, his contract is going to get bigger and bigger. And we'll look at that contract in just a second. But I want to spam the comment sections, litter the comment section with 305, the Heat's area code. Let's spam those 305s in the comment section. I want to see who the real ones are in the chat. Now let's look at what a contract potentially could look like for Gabe Vincent this offseason. And the thing that I cooked up here is a 4-year, $60 million deal. I actually think this is pretty fair. If I were to have to guess what Vincent's free agency contract was going to look like before the playoffs started this year, I was probably going to go 3 for 30, 10 mil a year, but I think he's bumped himself up a year, and I think he gets 60 million now, maybe doubling what I thought he was going to get before this playoff run. And I think this is a fair number because this is exactly what the Knicks paid Mitchell Robinson a year or 2 ago. I think Mitchell Robinson and Gabe Vincent are in the same tier of NBA players, so it would make sense to get similar deals. And I always struggle to come up with what NBA players should get paid because I go back to that 2016 class where Timothy Mozgov was getting 80 mil over 4 years, and he's a garbage player. So I never really know what these guys should be paid, but I think 4 for 60 for Vincent could be the correct number. But what if the Heat don't want to pay Gabe Vincent that money? Listen, they still have Duncan Robinson on a 5-year, $90 million deal, and they have Kyle Lowry on a 1-year, $30 million deal going into next season. So what if the Heat don't think they can afford to pay Gabe Vincent that alongside Lowry and Duncan? Now, you could obviously try to look to move Lowry or Duncan, but let's just look at replacing Gabe Vincent if Vincent signs that contract somewhere else. These are the top 5 free agent guards, I think, in NBA free agency this year. D'Angelo Russell, Fred VanVleet, Kyrie Irving, Dennis Schroeder, and James Harden. I want to talk about these guys for a second. Russell is an unrestricted free agent. VanVleet's got a player option. Kyrie Irving's an unrestricted free agent. Same with Schroeder. And James Harden has a player option as well. And I don't really think any of these guys make sense. Harden, I don't believe, is going to come here, and I don't think he would be too expensive for the Miami Heat. Dennis Schroeder could be a possibility if Gabe Vincent leaves, another scrappy defender that can give you 15, 16 a game sometimes. I mean, he'll average probably 8 or 9 for the season, but he could give you that 15, 16 points from time to time. Kyrie Irving, I don't think he's going to come here. If the Heat really wanted Kyrie Irving, I think they would have traded for him at the trade deadline. Fred VanVleet, I think it might be the most realistic option if you're thinking big name. I don't think Lowry and VanVleet are going to reunite again, so that doesn't make sense to me. And D'Lo kind of stinks. I'll take the Heat far, far away from him. So I think Dennis Schroeder is really the only one that could be signed by the Miami Heat. And I think the better way to go about this, if you were to replace Gabe Vincent, is the NBA draft. And these are the top 8, I think, point guards or combo guards, you could call them, in this draft. Scoot Henderson and Amen Thompson are your top 2 guards. Then you got Anthony Black, Kobe Buffkin, Cason Wallace, Nick Smith Jr., Jalen Hood-Schifino, and then Marcus Sasser. Marcus Sasser is more of a second-round prospect. Scoot Henderson, Amen Thompson, Anthony Black likely will be gone in the top 10. So Cason Wallace, Kobe Buffkin, Nick Smith Jr., and Jalen Hood-Schifino are possibilities when the Heat pick at 18. I think a couple of those guys, a.k.a. Wallace and Nick Smith Jr., will be early lottery. Schifino and Buffkin could be a real possibility for the Heat at 18. And I am really high on the Indiana point guard, Jalen Hood-Schifino. Every time I think of Schifino, my mind just goes all the way back to a Saturday night. Me and my boy Seeps were at the bar watching Purdue, Indiana. Purdue, a top 5 team in the country, player of the year in Zach Edey. And the best player in that game was Schifino. On the road, hostile crowd, dropped 34 points. He looked like Kobe Bryant out there. I'm not going to be honest. He was getting the mid-range, isolation. Schifino was absolutely fantastic. If there had to be one player I'd want at 18, I think it would be Jalen Hood-Schifino. Early list would also be Jordan Hawkins out of UConn and Derek Lively, a backup center for Bam Adebayo. He would be coming from Duke, but Schifino might be my number 1 guy at 18. But I'll ask you, what would you do with the Heat point guard situation this offseason? Type R if you would re-sign Gabe Vincent. Type S if you'd like to sign a free agent, one of those 5 guys on the list, or someone else if you want someone else, name it in the comment section. Or if you'd like to draft someone at pick number 18 in the first round, type D. Let me know down in the comment section. As always, make sure you do subscribe. Like I said, we'll be live for all Miami Heat, Denver Nuggets NBA Finals games, and we'll be here all off-season long for the NBA draft because that starts in about 15, 16 days, and we'll be here for free agency that starts about 8 days after. It's going to be a big off-season for your Miami Heat coming off maybe an NBA Finals championship or an NBA Finals loss, so make sure you stick with us here at the Heat Report.